Emily Winters had always believed in fairy tales. Growing up, she dreamed of a grand wedding, with a loving husband and a life that followed, one filled with joy, trust, and companionship. Little did she know, her life would soon unravel into a nightmare, far from the storybook romance she envisioned. It began innocuously enough. Emily was 30, an ambitious career woman working in public relations in London. She wasn't actively seeking love but felt a pang of loneliness every now and then. One evening, on the advice of a friend, she downloaded a dating app. There, amidst the usual profiles, she found Michael Thompson. Michael appeared to be everything she'd ever wanted. He was tall, with sharp features and a charming smile. His profile described him as a successful entrepreneur, with businesses in several countries. He was kind, attentive, and seemed genuinely interested in her. They chatted for hours, and within a few days, Michael asked her on a date. Their first meeting was magical. He took her to an upscale restaurant, was impeccably dressed, and spoke with the confidence of a man who had achieved a lot in life. He had stories of traveling the world, meeting influential people, and working on exciting projects. For Emily, it felt like a dream come true. He was everything she'd been waiting for, mature, successful, and utterly devoted to her from the start. As the weeks turned into months, their relationship blossomed. Michael showered her with affection, sending her thoughtful gifts and surprising her with romantic weekend getaways. He always seemed to know exactly what she wanted. Though his background was mysterious, he rarely spoke about his family or gave specifics about his business. Emily brushed aside her concerns. He claimed to be private about his personal life due to the nature of his work, and she chose to believe him. 6 months into their relationship, Michael proposed. It wasn't just any proposal, it was an elaborate affair. He rented a private rooftop garden overlooking the city, filled it with candles and roses, and got down on one knee as a string quartet played in the background. Emily was overwhelmed, and though they hadn't known each other long, she said yes without hesitation. Her heart was full, and she believed she had found the man she would spend the rest of her life with. Michael took charge of planning the wedding. He insisted that Emily focus on her work and leave the details to him. His explanation was simple: he wanted the day to be perfect, and he knew exactly how to make it that way. He even suggested they keep the wedding small and intimate, just close family and a few friends. Emily's parents had passed away years ago, and her extended family was scattered, so it made sense to her. She trusted him completely. As the wedding day approached, Emily noticed small oddities. Whenever she asked about meeting his family, Michael would make excuses. He claimed they were reclusive, living abroad, and couldn't make the trip to London until the wedding itself. His responses were vague, but she pushed her doubts aside, convinced that every relationship had its quirks. After all, hadn't Michael proven his love for her time and again? The wedding day arrived, and everything seemed perfect on the surface. The venue was a stunning manor house in the English countryside, and the sun shone brightly over the lush gardens. Emily wore a gown that made her feel like a princess, and as she walked down the aisle toward Michael, her heart swelled with happiness. His side of the aisle was filled with people, well-dressed, smiling faces she had never met, but whom Michael introduced as his relatives and close friends. The ceremony went off without a hitch. They exchanged vows, and Michael kissed her gently as the guests applauded. But something gnawed at Emily. During the reception, she tried to engage with Michael's family, but they seemed distant, offering only vague, scripted responses. None of them seemed to know each other well, and whenever she pressed for details about Michael's childhood or family stories, they deflected her questions. As the night wore on, Emily's discomfort grew. She pulled aside one of Michael's supposed cousins, a woman named Claire, and asked her directly how she knew Michael. The woman hesitated for a moment before admitting something shocking. "I'm sorry, I was hired to be here. I'm not really his cousin." Emily felt her heart drop. She immediately sought out Michael, demanding an explanation. At first, he tried to laugh it off, saying it was a misunderstanding. But when Emily pressed, his facade began to crack. He became defensive, claiming it didn't matter, that the wedding was about them, not about the people around them. But Emily wasn't satisfied. She demanded to know who the people at the wedding really were. Eventually, under the pressure of her questions, Michael confessed. He had hired actors to pose as his family. He claimed it was because his real family had disowned him, and he didn't want to embarrass her by having an empty side of the aisle. He begged her to forgive him, saying it was all done out of love. Devastated, Emily didn't know what to believe. She fled the reception, her mind spinning. Over the next few days, as she dug deeper into Michael's past, the full scope of the deception unraveled. The business empire he had boasted about? Fake. His expensive gifts and lavish lifestyle? Paid for by loans and credit cards under false identities. Even his name, Michael Thompson, wasn't real. The man she had married didn't exist. Emily was left shattered. She had married a stranger, a conman who had built their entire relationship on lies. Every memory, every moment they had shared, felt tainted. She contacted the police, but Michael had disappeared. His phone was disconnected, and his apartment, where she had spent so many weekends, was vacant. The man she loved was gone, and in his place was a trail of broken promises and dis. Months passed as Emily tried to pick up the pieces of her life. The legal battle was long and exhausting as she unraveled the financial mess Michael had left behind. But the emotional scars ran deeper. Trust, once so easily given, was now something she guarded fiercely. She withdrew from friends, embarrassed by how easily she had been deceived, how completely she had fallen for a lie. But slowly, with time and support from her closest friends, Emily began to heal. She realized that Michael's deception was a reflection of his own twisted character, not her own worth. She was not naive or foolish for believing in love, she had simply been targeted by a master manipulator. Emily chose not to let the lies define her. She vowed to move forward, stronger and wiser, with the understanding that love, real love, was built on truth, not deception. Though the scars remained, she found peace in the knowledge that she had survived, and that one day, she would find someone worthy of the trust she had once given so freely. After reporting Michael to the authorities, Emily learned that she wasn't the first woman he had deceived. His real name was James Turner, a notorious conman who had swindled several women out of money, staged multiple fake weddings, and disappeared just as the law began to catch up to him. He was a ghost, moving from city to city, leaving behind a trail of broken hearts and empty bank accounts. The revelation hit Emily hard. She had always thought of herself as cautious and intelligent, yet she had fallen victim to a man who had perfected the art of deception. But she also realized that his charm and lies were so carefully crafted that even the most vigilant person could have been fooled. It wasn't her fault, she had simply trusted someone who didn't deserve it. Emily became determined to rebuild her life, but it wasn't easy. The financial strain was overwhelming. Michael, James, had taken out loans in her name, and she was left dealing with debt collectors and legal complications. Every day felt like a battle, but Emily refused to give up. She had worked too hard to let one man destroy everything she had built. Her friends, initially shocked by the extent of the deception, rallied around her. Her best friend, Claire, became her rock, spending countless hours helping her with legal paperwork and offering emotional support. They would sit together late into the night, talking through every detail, trying to make sense of how it all had happened. "You couldn't have known," Claire would say. "He was a professional liar. He knew exactly how to play you, how to play all of us." Emily nodded, but the guilt lingered. She had ignored the small doubts that occasionally crept into her mind, choosing to believe in the fantasy rather than face the uncomfortable questions. One evening, as she was sorting through the last of the paperwork to untangle her finances, Emily found an old journal she had kept during the early days of her relationship with Michael. Flipping through the pages, she saw entries filled with excitement and love, descriptions of their first dates, the day he proposed, the plans for their future together. Each word felt like a distant memory, written by a different version of herself, someone who had yet to experience the devastating truth. But as she continued reading, something shifted in her perspective. She realized that her journal wasn't just a record of her relationship with Michael, it was also a testament to her resilience, her ability to find joy and love despite the odds. Even though it had all been based on lies, her feelings had been real. Her capacity to love and trust had been genuine, and that was something Michael could never take away from her. In the months that followed, Emily slowly began to rebuild. She focused on her work, finding solace in the routine and satisfaction in the success of her career. She attended therapy, which helped her process the trauma and regain her confidence. It was a long, difficult journey, but every day she felt a little stronger, a little more in control of her life. One day, while walking through the city, Emily received a call from the detective assigned to her case. They had finally tracked James down. He had been arrested in a different city, trying to pull the same scam on another woman. It was a bittersweet moment for Emily. Relief washed over her knowing that he could no longer hurt anyone else, but the scars of what he had done to her remained. When she was asked if she wanted to press charges, Emily didn't hesitate. She knew that holding James accountable for his actions was not just about seeking justice for herself, but for all the women he had deceived. She testified against him in court, sharing her story with a composed strength she didn't know she had. As she sat on the witness stand, recounting every painful detail, she realized that this was the final step in reclaiming her life. The trial was long and arduous, but in the end, James was convicted of multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and emotional manipulation. As he was led away in handcuffs, Emily felt a sense of closure. She would never fully understand why he had done what he did, but she no longer needed to. She had taken back control of her life, and that was what mattered. With the trial behind her, Emily focused on the future. She moved to a new apartment, away from the memories of the life she had once shared with a man who never existed. She started painting again, something she had always loved but had abandoned during the chaos of her relationship with Michael. The colors, the brushstrokes, gave her a sense of peace and control, something that had been missing for so long. Though the scars of the experience remained, Emily no longer let them define her. She had learned to trust again, but this time, she trusted herself first. She knew that real love, when it came, would be built on truth and mutual respect, not on lies and manipulation. And so, Emily moved forward, not as a victim, but as a survivor, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. The story of the woman who married a fake man, with a fake wedding and fake relatives, had ended. But Emily's real life, full of possibility and hope, had just begun.